Thousands of Americans are at risk of exposure to a cancer-linked chemical, ethylene oxide, and the Environmental Protection Agency explains that risk is based on where you work or live.
More than half of the country's medical equipment is sterilized with the compound. And when it evaporates off the surface of the products, it can create potentially dangerous concentrations of air pollution in the buildings where they are stored. Some people who work in those warehouses consider the colorless, odorless gas to be an invisible threat, as many have become sick or even died.
In a joint investigation with Grist, reporter Andy Parati takes an in-depth look at claims that 2 Georgia companies knowingly exposed employees to the toxins for years.
Muscle spasm.
Ira Montgomery shows dozens of prescriptions he takes every day to stay alive.
This is another blood pressure.
26 pills in all.
I forgot this one. I'm sorry. And this is anti-rejection.
Medication needed following an organ transplant after doctors discovered cancer in his liver that nearly took his life.
15 pills in the morning, 16 pills at night, every day, 7 days a week.
So this is your life?
Yeah, my new life. I thank God for being here, but it's hard.
A joint investigation uncovered Ira is one of more than 50 employees at this Lithia Springs, Georgia warehouse who claimed in a lawsuit their former employer, ConMed, exposed them to a cancer-causing toxin for years. Many of them now suffering from severe illness. At least 4 have died.
So me and my wife, we sat down and we looked at each other and said, baby, they are now pausing all of you guys.
Here's how it happened according to the lawsuit. It starts at this facility owned by Sterigenics in Cobb County, Georgia, which sterilizes millions of medical devices a week using a hazardous colorless gas called ethylene oxide, a toxin the Environmental Protection Agency says causes cancer and tumors. The sterilized products are then trucked 12 miles away, here to ConMed's 300,000 square foot warehouse, the size of 5 football fields. While there, boxes of medical equipment treated with ethylene oxide off gases inside the warehouse, allegedly exposing workers.
I was shocked.
Attorney Eric Hertz represents Ira and other warehouse workers in a pending lawsuit that claimed ConMed and Sterigenics conspired together to hide exposure from workers. The claims against ConMed were dismissed after Hertz said the plaintiffs reached an agreement. Sterigenics' lawsuit is still pending. In 2020, ConMed admitted to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration that employees were not informed about ethylene oxide, fining the company $7,800.
There's no reason not to tell the employees. There's no reason not to give them protection devices.
Handheld monitors used by Ira and other ConMed workers show ethylene oxide levels inside the warehouse so high, it set off alarms. Multiple readings more than 50 parts per million. The exposure limit set by OSHA is 1 parts per million.
This is 911. What's the address of the emergency?
It's ConMed Corporation. There's an employee. I'm not sure if he's having a seizure or a heart attack.
According to county dispatch records, EMS responded to the warehouse at least 22 times since 2016.
We just used to have people that come in there and just fall out. Just out.
Collapse?
Just collapse.
We was having a meeting and one of our employees just collapsed in the floor.
The warehouse is where the material that gets sterilized goes to. Nobody really thought about them having emissions.
Jim Bolin is the air branch chief for the Georgia Department of Environmental Protection. In 2019, the agency tested the air around another Georgia warehouse storing medical equipment. The findings were startling to this date. The warehouse emitting 5,700 pounds of ethylene oxide per year. That's about 9 times higher than the facility where the equipment is sterilized.
That's correct. The controlled facility had lower emissions and the warehouse had higher emissions.
Wow. I mean, that must have been a surprise to you.
Yes, it was a very big surprise.
After uncovering elevated levels of the toxic gas, the Georgia Environmental Protection Division now mandates these kinds of warehouse companies must obtain air quality permits, which include monthly testing and new equipment to remove the gas. While Georgia took action, we uncovered warehouses in other states that store products sterilized with ethylene oxide do not have similar regulations. Do you think this is something other states should be looking into as well?
I think they should be looking into it.
This one here is another anti-rejection.
An industry using a dangerous chemical, accused of exposing workers to an invisible threat for years.
I gave you 13 years of professional work. I trust you to make it safe for me to come to work. So why you can't just do it right?
ConMed has denied the allegations in response to the lawsuit and declined to answer our questions. Sterigenics also denied any wrongdoing. In March 2024, the Environmental Protection Agency released sweeping changes involving sterilization plants that use ethylene oxide. It includes installing more advanced equipment to remove and capture the gas, as well as better air quality monitoring. But the EPA's new rules do not address most warehouses that store medical supplies treated with the gas. There are at least 4 in Georgia, including ConMed.
We've kicked off the holidays, so we're right in the middle of that time when folks need money and people are spending money. So etiquette and money manners sometimes get lost in the hustle and bustle of it all.
When we say the money etiquette, we mean a lot of things, everything around money. It's borrowing money, it's lending money, it is splitting the bill.
We learn early in life that manners matter. We learn a little later money manners are pretty important too.
So the biggest mistake a lot of people make with money is they talk about it only after the transaction has been done.
Most of us work very hard for our money.
Everything that is around money is oftentimes awkward to talk about.
Especially when it involves relatives.
When family borrows money, forget about that money.
Lending money could change the mood of family gatherings if the lender needs the money back from the borrower, but they're not paying.
So when you're lending the money, you should lend in the amount that you might feel comfortable in losing altogether.
Disputes over money can actually tear up a family, leaving them in pieces that are hard to put back together, especially when it comes to the passing of a parent.
You have as a parent the duty to split the things beforehand, so your kids will not be, getting into the fights over what is whose.
You've heard the saying, get your affairs in order. It is critical.
Money is probably the biggest issue that can get in the way with, siblings not talking to each other, parents and children not talking to each other.
Money manners even play a part when we've been invited to dinner with friends.
The inviting party should be the one handling the bill.
The bill and the tip. If it is just a few good friends who decided to gather for a meal, regardless of who extended the invitation,
in that case, you obviously go Dutch.
There's one thing that can quickly sour a meal between a large group of friends, and that's splitting the bill instead of paying for your own individual meal.
Because the most awkward situation is when friends go over for a restaurant, a lunch, dinner, and then one ends up, buying or ordering something expensive, like an expensive bottle of wine, something expensive to eat.
One of the meals cost a lot. The other, not so much, but both must now pay the same amount because the decision was made to split the bill evenly.
So it's really important to understand when you make an order in a group that you order around the same price range if you're going to split in half.
Remember, it's fine to tell the waitress and your friend you'd actually like separate checks before the order is taken. Finally, money and marriage.
Then you have to talk with your partner honestly. I do think that assumptions are a huge roadblock when it comes to communication, because people think the other partner might already know or feel the same way, but they never do. You're not in their head, so always do not assume, but ask.
When it comes to money manners and tipping, it can be confusing. 20% is pretty straightforward and generous. According to Emily Post Rules of Etiquette, For a sit-down dinner, 15 to 20% is fine, 10% for buffet. No obligation for takeout, but for an extra service like curb delivery, add 10%. Just about anyone that gives you time and service should be tipped. Salon, bellhop, bartender. Now today, be prepared for tip prompts everywhere. According to Emily Post, you can skip the tip, but at least show appreciation by saying please, thank you, and excuse me. Helping you make ends meet, I'm Dawn G.